Hey everyone, Alex Swinson here, Director of Education for Tau Kappa Epsilon. Excited to be back with you. We are in our final week of member education or new member education, depending on which one of those two you are. And I'm very, very excited for the two videos that we have planned this week because I think they're extremely relevant and I think they're a really good way to put a stamp on what we've accomplished this month with all 8 of the videos that we produce. So today what we're going to talk about is your development in Tau Kappa Epsilon, alumni in Tau Kappa Epsilon, and then really focus on recruitment. That was a big piece of what we did last week with the video that we left out. Recruitment was covered in chapter 6 of the T Guide, and we pushed it to this week because I wanted to give it its due time because of how important of a topic it is. So again, we're going to talk about really what's next for your development in Tau Kappa Epsilon. How can you be the best TEAC, the best version of yourself throughout your time in college and even beyond that? We're going to talk about the different alumni roles, the different ways that you can give back to the fraternity once you graduate. And then again, we're going to spend some time focused on recruitment. Nick Kimble and Zach Scott, two staff members at our office who are very, very good at recruiting new members and building recruitment plans, are going to join us for some time and some comments. I'm going to go through these 2 chapters, your development in TEAC and alumni in TEAC, pretty quickly because, again, I want to get to recruitment. I want to focus on that. Instead of digging into the content, I'm going to ask that you go through and read the material and spend time on your own looking through everything. I'm going to give a high-level overview of what those chapters include and what they entail, and then allow you to go back and do some reading on your own about the individual details of what we cover. The first piece is again, Chapter 7 in the TEAC Guide, your development in TEAC, and it kicks off with a couple of documents. The first is the ideals of Tau Kappa Epsilon, and the second is the charge. The ideals of TEAC were delivered by Clarence Mayer, obviously one of our founders, at the Golden Jubilee, the 50th anniversary celebration of Tau Kappa Epsilon in 1949, and Frater Mayer really used that time to talk about the first 50 years of our existence and what Tau Kappa Epsilon had become by that point. It is available for you to read again. I would encourage you to do so. The charge is a document that is read to every chapter when they are installed. When you go from colony to chapter, there's a big ceremony, a big celebration. The charge is read. And really the purpose of the charge is what are our responsibilities? Go forth and do X, Y, Z as a chapter, as a member in Tau Kappa Epsilon. And again, I'd encourage you to spend some time going and reading those documents because they are very important to our history, just like the Opportunity Out of Defeat, the Declaration of Principles, some of the other things that we've covered in the last few weeks. The next pieces are some different layers of your development in TEAC and some focus points to think about, how you're developing yourself throughout your time with the fraternity. The first is scholarship. It's one of the principles that we stand on. Included in the TEAC Guide are a lot of really good study tips and strategies, developing a plan to ensure that you're staying on top of your game in the classroom. Asking for help, that's a huge part of scholarship. That's a huge part of getting good grades. And by joining TEAC, you give yourself a network of guys, a lot of them older than you, who have been to a lot of the classes you're taking, who have had the professors that you've had. They can help you understand the nuances of taking a test with a certain professor, or, do I take this math class or this math class? Which one is frankly easier? Which one is better for my major? Utilize your TEAC network and ask people for help as you go through college to make sure that your grades stay where they need to be. There's some note-taking tips in there, which I think are extremely vital when it comes to studying and projects and understanding what it is that professors look for when they give you a test or a quiz or an exam. And then the last piece is a little bit about some of the scholarships that we offer as a fraternity. Every single year, thousands of dollars go unclaimed by our members that are available to them in scholarships. So if you've never applied for a TEAC scholarship, or if you haven't even looked, please go do that. Check it out on our website. Look at all the scholarships that are available, and hopefully you'll find that there's $500 here, $250 there, $1,000 here that you can apply for that are going to help ease some of the costs of your education and your needs throughout college. The next piece is character. And as you can see at the bottom there, our next video is really focusing on a lot of these topics. Its focus is, you know, how do you go out and make an impact on society and in the world with a positive attitude and a leader's mindset. So you're going to hear a lot more about these if you watch the next video, but character is really the foundation on which our organization stands, right? Not for wealth, rank, or honor, but for personal worth and character. The character of our members is what makes TKE. So if you're thinking about, you know, what it means to be in this fraternity, the baseline expectation is have a strong character, do the right thing, and be a good person. Some of the different layers and aspects of what that entails, of what that portion of chapter 7 entails: service, philanthropy. You know, we do a great job of giving back as TKEs, and that's a huge part of having a strong character, is providing for those who are less fortunate than you are. Being a gentleman at all times, how to act like a gentleman, and what are some of the, you know, how do you treat women? How do you treat others? Do you open doors for people on campus? Do you have a strong handshake? Cultural awareness. That's a huge part of the next video as well. Understanding that people come from all different backgrounds, and especially going away to college, where maybe you came from a high school or from a hometown that was a little more sheltered, and you go away to a big university and you see people from all different religions, all different races, sexual orientations. But understanding that those people are out there and they exist, and they deserve our respect just like anyone else does. And I guess when I say those people, I mean people who are different than you. I don't obviously mean that in a derogatory sense. People who had a different upbringing, have a different background than you, but being aware of that and respecting that is the first step in making sure that you're treating everyone fairly and equally. Having empathy for those around you, being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, seeing the world from their perspective, that is going to allow you, once again, to develop that strong character and to develop as a leadership. There's a piece in there about sportsmanship. You know, that may seem a little elementary at times, but sportsmanship on campus reflects directly back on us as a fraternity. It reflects back on your chapter. It reflects back on the international organization. How do you handle loss? How do you handle challenges? How do you handle Greek week and intramurals? Be aware of that. Be cognizant of that, because it's a huge piece of who you are. And then etiquette. There's a lot of really good etiquette tips in there, tricks in there, how to tie a tie. You know, we talked about handshakes earlier, table manners, treatment of women. Once again, that's covered in there. Social networking etiquette, you know, email etiquette. How are you communicating with others in a digital age? That's all covered in this chapter as well. So once again, I'm not going to go through those pieces in great detail, but I would encourage you to go read back, and I'd encourage you to watch our next video, because we're really going to dive into the impact you can make and the impact that our fraternity can make in a positive or a negative way on your world and on your society. Next section of your development is leadership. And this is where it really gets, this is what really separates a lot of individuals in our fraternity. The guys who go along, go with the flow day in and day out, and maybe they're a perfectly good member, and that's fine. And then those who step up, and those who lead, and those who want to become better leaders. And that's one of the main things that TKE can offer. There's a lot in there about Quotas and Posner. Those are two individuals who wrote a lot of material on leadership theory, but those 5 points there are covered in a lot more detail, once again, in chapter 7. So please go check those out. Please go read that. Please think about what each of those 5 points means to you in your current position, what it might mean to you in the future, and how you can address each of them to make your chapter, make your fraternity better. TKE programs. That is, again, a huge part of my job, is developing the content and developing the planning for our programs and events: Leadership Academy, Province Forums, Regional Leadership Conferences, Conclave, Alumni Volunteer Academy. All of those programs aid our members in becoming better leaders. And I really hope that you take advantage of the opportunities that are out there for you. Anyone can go to a forum, anyone can go to an RLC, anyone can go to a conclave. So do that. Go to 4 RLCs. You're going to take away something different from each one of those, I promise you. And then Leadership Academy, that is an application process. And I hope that if you're watching this, you will consider applying in the future if you've not already attended. But Leadership Academy is leadership on a whole different level. We get the best voices, the best leaders that we have to offer in TKE, and we put you in a room with them for 4 or 5 days and allow you to learn, allow you to fail, allow you to make mistakes, and understand how bouncing back from those mistakes is going to build you up and build you into a better person, a better human being, and a better leader. So Leadership Academy, once again, anyone who's attended, I think, can attest how huge it is in their leadership development in Tau Kappa Epsilon and in life. So take the time to apply for Leadership Academy if you have not already. But attending programs is a very vital part of your TKE experience. Don't shelter yourself in your home chapter. Get out there, meet other TKEs, experience different cities, different locations, understand what it looks like to go sit in a formal dinner banquet or a formal lunch banquet, get some professional development, some networking, some mock interview opportunities. That is all offered in a very tight package at our programs and events. And if you want to be the best leader you can be of your chapter, of your fraternity, if you want to be Preakness, if you want to be a hegemon, you want to volunteer as an alumnus, attending these programs are as important, if not more important, than I think anything that you can go and accomplish on your own. Moving now to chapter 8, which is alumni in TKE. The focus of this chapter is really just in explaining all the different ways that you can give back to the fraternity. And even if you're a freshman, I hope you've already started thinking about what you're going to do when you graduate and how you're going to stay engaged and involved in the fraternity. The province advisors and grand province advisors, PAs and GPAs, those are guys who travel around a specific area. A province is a lot of times a state, a lot of times it's a few states, but they are high-level volunteers who are able to go and bounce around to different chapters and help them with a variety of topics. Maybe you want to be a chapter advisor. Focus your attention on one chapter and one chapter only. I think the position of chapter advisor is one of the most important roles in the fraternity, because that's the position, if done right, that allows continuity between pledge classes, between officer groups. And as we know, the chapter turns over every 4 years. If there's a consistent chapter advisor in place, someone who knows what's good, what's bad, what's worked, what hasn't worked, the chapter is going to be set up to sustain that turnover and be successful into the future. So, if that's something that interests you, I really think the chapter advisor position is extremely important, and every chapter needs a good one. A lot of chapters don't have anyone as a chapter advisor, but it's really important that every chapter has one. Board of advisors, that's a little higher level position, but again, focused on each individual chapter where you're making some bigger decisions about finances, about budgeting, about, membership, a lot of that stuff. The board of advisors is really intended to provide an alumni sounding board to ensure the chapter operations are solid. The housing corp, if you have a house, you probably have a housing corp that is, once again, overseeing the operations of the house and not just leaving it to a bunch of guys in college who have never owned a house before, never taken care of maintenance and a pipe burst. What do we do? Or, we need our sidewalks shoveled. That's the function of the housing corp. So if that's something you're passionate about, look into that. Alumni associations, these are really good ways to stay involved, I think, at a much more fringe level, but still ensure you're tied in with the chapter. Alumni associations are intended to have fun, to put on events for alumni, to get the alumni interacting with the undergraduates, and really make sure that all of the alumni of the chapter are tied in and are updated and are continually being invited to be a part of the activities. We lose a lot of individuals who go 4 years in college and then fall off the map as far as TKE is concerned. The Alumni Association's main function is to ensure that that doesn't happen, to keep guys, again, engaged and involved and plugged into the chapters, so that when the time comes to get a new board of advisors member, get a new chapter advisor, revitalize the housing corp, there's already a pool of people who are interested and available in doing that. Serving on the professional staff, that's a whole other beast, but that is an option for every single one of you. Every single person who's a member of the fraternity can apply to work on our professional staff and impact chapters day in and day out as your job. So, I would really strongly encourage you to get in touch with myself or someone else on our team if that interests you. Again, whether you're freshman, sophomore, or whether you're getting ready to graduate, we always need new people. We always need fresh perspectives and fresh bodies when it comes to serving on our staff. And I hope that's something you'll consider. And then lastly, a donor. you know, at the very minimum, I hope you'll consider giving back financially to Teak if you have the means and you have the availability through the Life Loyal Teak program, through the Teak Foundation, but making that financial commitment to ensure that your fraternity continues to thrive. I want to move now into recruitment and bring in Nick and Zach. Nick is the director of expansion. Zach is the director of growth. And these guys have tons of experience, building chapters from the ground up, going into groups where there's a couple guys who want to be Teaks, and Nick will go in for a couple weeks and he'll walk out and there'll be 30 or 40 guys signed up to be a part of the fraternity. Zach has a lot of experience overhauling chapters, groups who maybe have struggled with recruitment, maybe recruit 5 or 6 guys a year. Zach will go in and work with them for a few days, rebuild a recruitment plan, and he's seen significant gains in the chapters that he has worked with as well. So that's why I wanted to bring them in. They're the experts, and I hope that what they have to say here for you will be productive and beneficial, and you'll really take heed in what they're saying and the advice that they're giving. And welcome now to my good friends, Nick Kimble and Zach Scott, both members of the TKE professional staff. Frauders, how we doing today? Good.
Doing great. Al, appreciate you having us on. Zach, how you doing, bud?
I am phenomenally well. It's another sunny day in Indianapolis, so I don't hate it.
Good deal. It is quite nice today, a nice change of pace. So probably snow tomorrow, but we'll attack that when we get to it. Obviously, the reason I brought you guys in today was to talk about recruitment, and that's a big focus of what we're doing with this lesson. And there's some things I want to talk about related to new members, and there's some things I want to talk about that can really relate to anyone. But I want to start with the new members. And for those who are watching this who have recently become a part of the fraternity, why is it so important that they need to shift their mindset now that they are Teaks and now that they are part of the chapter? Why do they need to shift their mindset into recruiting even more new members?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll jump in here. So I guess first of all, welcome. Congrats on becoming new members in Teak and in our fraternity. It's a great decision, but it's important to shift that mentality immediately because you have the best network of people out there. There's fellow students like yourself who don't know where to turn, who aren't getting that support system that you're now a part of. They're not on these videos. You're in classes with them. You were in orientation with them. You might live with them. There's all kinds of areas where you have that outreach that it's just much more difficult for upperclassmen to get to because you're the future of the fraternity. You might be a candidate now and a new member, but you're going to be the president one day. You're going to be on exec, and it's important to start working for the fraternity and believing in the fraternity because you're a part of it, and it needs to get to that level. Build your vision because you're going to be a part of it for the next 4 years in college and then beyond. So build it into what you want it to be. Zach, anything to add here?
No, I think that hits the nail on the head. I think we would be remiss not to remind guys that recruitment for fall starts now, right? Like getting prepared and getting ahead now is one of the best keys for success. So I love it.
Absolutely. And you guys both have a lot of experience building chapters or colonies from the ground up. And I know you both have experience going into chapters that maybe aren't hitting the results that they want and overhauling the process and getting those recruitment numbers up. When you go into a chapter or a colony and are looking to boost their recruitment numbers, what are 1 or 2 things that you tell every single group that you recruit with about best practices, best strategies when it comes to adding members?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the growth groups in particular, the groups that have worked with me in the past know this. The first thing that I talk about is what is our brand and how are we getting it out to people, right? Recruitment is all a relationship building game. How are we preparing ourselves to cast our net as far and as wide as possible? And how are we going to stay consistent with that brand that we're looking for? Are we promoting ourselves out on social media? Are we, when we meet new people on the quad or on the main thoroughfare of campus, are we representing ourselves the way that we want to be as gentlemen, as scholars, if that's in the classroom, whatever it may be, put that best foot forward. So that way, no matter what, whether a person joins your fraternity weeks later or you just make a new friend, they end that interaction thinking, wow, that guy was really nice. And maybe they associate that with your organization. And so one of those big pieces is when you're starting an interaction, I think keeping it to the first interaction, keeping it really short and simple of, hey, how are you? How's it going? What are you doing right now? What's that on your shirt, right? Starting a conversation up, then proceeding to get to them to talk a little bit more about themselves, building that relationship based on things that they have going on in their life and what's important to them, and then going from there. I think, again, being consistent in the types of people that you're looking for as well, as you get to know this person, as you reach out and talk to them more in the future, finding out a little bit more to see how they fit into that. That's a really quick run through of some of the stuff that I go in depth with on groups, but those two pieces of being consistent with what that brand represents on campus and talking to as many people as possible, I think are very important pieces to that.
Anything you want to add, Nick, in terms of your go-tos?
Zach did a great job, crushed it. My one thing I would add is that I go, just because I work specifically with colonies, and I think it's important for chapters too, is building a vision. So similar to what I just said in the beginning, you have 4 years left. Going and explaining to people, this is what it is now, but this is what it's going to be. And this is what we're going to build in. And we need you with your specific skill set to help get us there. I need you. The fraternity needs you. Help me build this, and let's build it together. That's the one thing I'd add.
Yeah, and I think that's great advice. And I think a lot of people try and cast a wide net when it comes to recruitment and talk to anyone and everyone, but I don't think enough people have that very targeted, laser sharp approach with each individual that you just illustrated. I want to continue on that idea as we think about, TKE's goal of recruiting all year long, 24/7, 365. During a rush week or during a recruitment week, it may be thought of to be a little easier to recruit, where guys are coming to you, right? Everyone knows that fraternity rush is going on and they're looking for the right group to join. So it might feel a little easier getting guys in the door and having those conversations. Outside of that, though, recruitment still needs to be going on. So what, outside of the structured rush weeks, what are some tips that you have to continue to recruit members, continue to bring guys in all year so that you're not just relying on those 1 or 2 weeks to build your chapter?
Yeah, Nick, if you don't mind, I'll jump in on this because I think this will help expand a little bit on the stuff that I was talking about. Whenever I go into a group, I give a couple of examples, and if they watch these other videos that Nick and myself have recorded, I talk about it as well. When we're, let's say, a month into school, recruitment is wrapped up, right? But we're already starting to think about, hey, how can I continue to build out my brand and my network a little bit further? Pay attention to the things that people wear. People wear things intentionally, right? Whether it's a Pickle Rick and Morty shirt, or whenever I go on campus, I wear my Matthew McConaughey hat that says, all right, all right, all right. People wear things intentionally because they mean something to them. If you have a connection to it, if you really like Matthew McConaughey and his rom-coms, start a conversation about it, right? Failure to Launch, what a great movie, man. What is that? Why you decided to wear that? Oh, you love Dazed and Confused. That's awesome. Ben Affleck and Matthew McConaughey, who would have thought? Starting conversations with people, whether that's in the middle of the quad, in the middle of class, whatever it may be, just based on something that they're interested in, is a great way to build some rapport with another individual. Keep it to a minute, maybe 2 minutes long. Hey, I see that you got a lanyard poking out of your pocket. You're looking down at your phone. Are you a freshman? Or are you new to the campus? Whatever it may be, however best you want to break that ice. Start that conversation up. Ask them if they need help getting around campus. Oh, you're a transfer student. You're a sophomore. Sorry that I confused you with a freshman, but I remember even my sophomore year, I felt a little lost on campus, and trying to get around can still be difficult, even when you know where things are. Would love to help you get to your classroom. By the time you've maybe gotten them there, or maybe the conversation's starting to end that way, talk to them a little bit about why they decided to come to university, what they've enjoyed so far about their university experience. Ending the conversation as simply as, hey, man, I got to run to my class. Would love to get your number and maybe grab lunch or something like that. Talk to you about what it means to be a student at XYZ University. Always have that power in your hand of getting their information, so the onus is on you. And then just go from there, right? Setting up that next follow-up of, hey, let's go grab dinner. I know we talked about it the last time. This is so-and-so. Would love to rack your brain a little bit about what's going on in your life. How did quarantine affect you? What did you do to stay sane? Did you have enough toilet paper? Did you run out? Whatever it may be. It's as simple as that. And again, this is a game of building relationships out and building friendships. Maybe they don't end up joining a fraternity, but you've won a new person into your own personal network. I think that is the benefit of being in a fraternity, is that we can continue to work on these skills. So that way you're not just a master of fraternity recruitment, but you're a master of conversations now and for the future when you're at that networking happy hour, if you're an engineering firm and you have the ability to start a conversation with somebody only knowing one thing in common with them. So that's a little bit of a deep dive into how you can continue doing recruitment without necessarily doing it months later when formal recruitment is over.
Yeah, and I would just add, I think for the most part, people are pretty good at making those relationships, and it's about getting better at it, which is what Zach is talking about. And he teaches groups across the country, whether they're 80-man groups or 5-man groups, to get better at it. So hope you all listen to him. But people get hung up on the new member process. So like, oh, we recruit during rush week because the school only allows us to do that because we have to do the new member process during this. We have all year, 365 days to do the new member process. Why would we let someone who's super quality, that's going to change the trajectory of our fraternity experience and our chapter, just because we met him the week after rush week, the week after the school condoned it? So it's about building those relationships to make sure all year round, so that pipeline, even if the school, some schools are, very strict about those policies, either having a conversation about this is how our new member education is structured, or if we can't change that, well, let's build those pipelines all year. So when it finally comes to rush week, where did Teak get 200 guys? They added 200 guys by themselves to the pipeline for all the fraternities. Now they're just going to Teak. They have to go through the motions with everyone else, but that's what the building relationships all year, growing your personal network it's all about. That is the key. So don't get hung up on, we have to do this for new member education, or these are the rules. Like, just worry about building the relationships, and we can figure out ways to get people educated, to make sure the rules are being followed. But make sure you're building relationships. Make sure you're always writing your letters and building the brand of the fraternity. That's incredibly important to the future of the fraternity, the future of your colony or chapter.
Perfect. I appreciate the insight there. I want to shift to focus now toward some mistakes that you guys see commonly, and I want to think about it in two ways. First, mistakes that TEAC chapters are making, or that you've seen TEAC chapters make that can be avoided, but also thinking about some mistakes that the other fraternities on campus may be making or are likely making that our chapters can avoid, that are going to set them apart and put them at the top of the recruitment process at their home campus.
Yep. One that comes to mind for me, just since we were just riffing on this, is quotas or hitting goals or numbers. So, the chapter agrees on, well, we only want to take 15 new guys in, but there are 20, 25 quality guys. I see a lot of chapters who are, we don't have enough big brothers for them. We don't know how to educate this many people. But why would you, again, turn a quality person down because you met them after 2 days after, you met somebody else? Like, why? That makes no sense if you really think about it, right? So let's get as many quality people. I'm not saying lower the standards, but keep your standards. Let's get as many quality people in the organization as we can, and we'll figure out how to do the big brother system, who can double up, how we can educate them, how we can do that, because we don't want to let quality people slip through our fingertips. That's I think a problem that some of our growing chapters or larger chapters face. We don't want to get too big. We don't want to lose the brotherhood. There's ways to figure out how to build a better brotherhood, figure out the new member education process, do the big brother program. That is not a recruitment problem. That's a future chapter and colony problem that many people are there to help you fix. But don't lose out on quality guys because you're getting in your own way. Getting in your own way is the start of all your recruitment problems. And I'm sure Zach's going to talk about a few of those other ones.
Yeah, I think on the reverse end of that is when you set a goal for yourself and then you underachieve on that, and then you don't have the wherewithal to power through, whether you just finish up fall recruitment, like the formal process of it, and your goal was 20 guys, but you ended up at 12. Having the understanding and the wherewithal to push forward even after recruitment is over with, to get that and accomplish your goal and get those another 8+ guys, I think that's what separates good chapters from bad chapters. And sometimes it comes from, I think you had mentioned, Al, the idea of other fraternities on campus and the issues that stand in front of them that maybe are pitfalls that stand in front of them that we sometimes fall into is the same thing of the top performing group on campus just has guys coming to them. And so then we think, oh, the only way to get a top tier is not go after guys. It's for guys to come to us. That, I think, ties in perfectly with the groups that usually underachieve on their goals. You have this experience of, oh, wow, these guys they're lining up to go to XYZ fraternity, and they have 100 guys looking at them. They only take 30 of them. Well, those guys are probably looking for a very specific type of experience. Understanding that maybe we don't fit that bill very well, but that we offer an entirely new experience for them, whether we're a growing chapter or already a very sizable organization on campus that are looking for that extra edge to push us over. It's that understanding of how we can fill in those blanks, whether we react and reach out to those people, or if we get proactive and go after other people that aren't even in the pipeline, what Nick is talking about and what we talked about of broadening that net to talk to as many people as possible, bring in that 200 other people for the pipeline of everybody to enjoy. Again, the more people you talk to, the better your experience will be. The hungrier you are, we talk about this deal closing mentality. If you have that mentality, it becomes almost impossible to not hit and supersede your goals. And I think that's, again, one of those things that I see oftentimes when I'm working with growth groups that just aren't hitting what they want, right? Is it becomes this mentality issue that we have to fight through. And I think if you are one of those groups, that's a perfect opportunity to set up a meeting with either myself or Nick or someone else on our expansion and growth team to get outside of that and get some outside perspectives a little bit.
Yep. We have time for one more, Al.
Of course.
Excellent. Glad I don't want to steal your show here, but organizing recruitment. People think because there's a scheduled recruitment or rush week that the school or IFC puts on, people are just going to show up. Like Zach said, if you aren't planning for recruitment, you will fail. You will either not hit your number, or worse, you're not going to get the guys that you deserve or that you want to, or that for the quality that you need for the chapter. So what are seniors who are graduating? Are people transferring? Is there a skill set that your chapter is losing for whatever reason that you need to replace? Can you go find a guy who's cranking out service hours? Can you go find someone who's incredibly passionate about St. Jude or building the Brotherhood? What are the qualities that the group is lacking that you need to replace, fill? How are you going after those guys? Where are they at on campus? How are you setting up recruitment week? Are there events? Is the committee need to function in reserve space? You want to go into the week before recruitment week, just have guys in the hopper, and the only thing you need to worry about is talking to them, forming relationships, and closing them. If you're worried about anything else a week before recruitment week, you've already failed. You're already behind. It is a perfect opportunity to plan for fall recruitment right now in the spring. You always need to plan the semester ahead. Summer recruitment's coming up. Plan.
Yeah, and a couple things that sparked ideas there are the thought of, losing that sense of brotherhood, which I know you guys both know this, but we have plenty of 80, 90, 100, 120 man chapters who, their brotherhood, their processes, their new member education is the best in TEAC. And that's why they are 120 guys, because people see that and they want to join it. It's not the other way around. So that's not something to be afraid of. And then, like you just said, Nick, obviously being proactive and planning ahead. And if you're still trying to figure out a week before recruitment what events you want to put on, you've already lost. Now you're wasting time that could be spent actually recruiting guys, trying to plan and organize. So just the emphasis of taking advantage of the spring, taking advantage of the summer, and not losing that going into the fall is so important. I want to come back to something that Zach talked about for my final question, which is closing a deal. And we've talked a lot about getting guys in the door and having conversations and getting phone numbers. But when someone's on the fence, when someone says, I'm not real sure, let me check with my parents, I don't know if I have the money, I'm not sure if this is for me. What does that conversation look like to turn a no or a maybe into a yes?
Zach, go ahead. We're both going to want to talk on this one, I know, but you go first, my friend.
Yeah. The first thing that comes to my mind, I know it'll be a little bit different from what Nick has in mind, is those relationships that you've built, right? In theory, you have gathered enough information about this person because you haven't jumped straight into, hey man, what's up? I'm so-and-so from Teak. Do you want to join a fraternity? You have instead built a relationship in the main thoroughfare of campus or perhaps in front of your recruiting table, but you have gone about it in a way that you've gathered information on them over a series of days or series of meetings. And you know this person almost as well as you know some of the brothers maybe. And you've asked the right types of questions. So that way, when you get to the final stage of, hey man, what's holding you back, right? They already feel comfortable enough to walk through. Maybe they've told you that the family is an important piece and you're not really sure what your parents are going to think. Maybe you've already addressed the issue of, hey man, I would love to talk to your parents about this organization, about what it has done for myself, maybe even get them to talk to my own parents, whatever that is. Finding ways to confront all their issues before they've even managed to get them out of their mouth almost, because these things have just come up in conversations, whether it's financial concerns, again, those family concerns, or time commitments, whatever it may be. Once you become a master of this stuff, you've already addressed it. And I know, again, that Nick will probably have some other bits and pieces of how to actually close that. But I think I would be remiss not to mention the importance of building that relationship early on, so that way you have as much information on this person as you possibly can. Because the idea is this should be a no-brainer. This will define their college experience, and it'll make them into a better man. And that this will be the best decision that they make in that 4 or 5 years of college.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to build really off that, but meet the moment. Know who you're talking to. Are you the best person to even be in that closing position? Or should you, if you're an extrovert and you're kind of intense, which I think Zach and I and Alex are, right? Like if you are, you should not be the person who's talking to someone who is a little bit shyer. I'm not saying you shouldn't be a brother with them. I'm saying that you don't need to be like, hey man, this could be the best experience of your life. Going to change your whole life. Beating your chest and get crazy. That's going to scare somebody like that. That's going to, I don't know, I don't know if I'm going to fit in with these guys. They seem nice, but so meet the moment, know who you're talking to. When you get really good, you can figure out, you can be the same person for everyone. You can be a chameleon. And then building off Zach, you've already had these conversations. So in your head that whatever personal relationship they have, maybe they're family orientated, or they were a leader on a sports team, or they're looking to have a really life-changing experience in college. Those all sound like things that we do in this fraternity. And I know you're just getting started, but those are things that Teak prides itself on and we do every day. So that they are already geared towards fraternity. So they're a yes. You just have to help them realize it. You already realize it. It's getting them to realize that they need to say yes or they're losing out. So what I like to do, and I think this is simple, you can practice it, but everyone can do it, is, hey man, hey Al, scale 1 to 10. 1, Nick never talked to me again, lose my number. 10, yes, I would accept a bid right now. Where are you at? And this is not dirty rushing. This is not pocket bids. It's just figuring out where they're at in the process and how much selling you still have to do. So, hey, I'm at a 7. Awesome. That's great. That's not a 1. Glad we don't have to stop talking. I really liked you. 7. I want to get you to a 10. We need your specific skill set in this colonnade chapter because we're trying to get here and there's a delta and I need you to help us do it. So what questions have I not answered? What concerns do you still have that gets you from a 7 to a 10? Because I need you at a 10. Finances. Okay, we have concrete situations, and I can talk the CRISO. I can hook you up with someone. We can work out a payment plan. Like we can work through this. Or like Zach said, it's a parent thing. Excellent. How can we talk to you? You want to talk to one of our alumni, our chapter advisor, myself. You want to talk to my mom, my dad, my parental figure. Figuring out what their chasm is, what their gap is, closing that, and say, I just don't know if it's not for me. Okay, well, in the back of your mind, you got to know these people, right? So you are allowed to go through and say, well, I actually don't know if I agree with that because you're an example of X, Y, and Z qualities because I got to know you. Those are directly applicable to this. You were made for this. We need you. You were made for this. Getting that 7 to a 10, that's an easy way to not have an awkward conversation about, I don't know if he's ready. Should I bid him? When should I bid him? How do I close him? What stage is he at? Easy way to figure it out and then figure out what gap in selling you have and getting them to that point to convince them that this is the right opportunity for them. Because if you're to that point, you, the chapter and colony, know it already is the right opportunity for them. You just have to get them to realize it.
Damn. I'm ready to join Teak now. You got me. I'm locked in.
I'd make you a double frauder, huh?
It's even better. That was the last question that I had for you guys. Any final thoughts, anything that sparked while we were talking that you want to share before I let you go?
I think one last piece, especially with what's going on right now, continuing to find ways to build relationships with people that you either met before everything happened, before you were sent back home, or whatever may be the case, and finding ways to get connected with people that maybe you're doing an online course, you're doing a Zoom course, and you remember that this person wasn't affiliated with an organization, or maybe they are. Finding ways to continue building relationships, finding ways to continue to put this stuff into practice, I think is a major piece that we need to continue to focus on. We talk about practice. Find ways to rise to this occasion and the cards that we've been dealt right now, and to push through, persevere, and be as prepared as possible as we move into the summer and we move into the next fall semester.
Yeah, please reach out if you need anything. Welcome to Teak. Recruitment is one of the most important skills, and it's one of the most applicable life skills that we teach in the fraternity. And it's possible to really get very, very good at it. And please reach out to Zach, myself, anyone on the professional staff, and they can direct you to the resources. We're happy to get on a call like this, a video conference, a phone call, and maybe even take a visit to your chapter or colony and have these conversations in person. So thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you guys both. And recruitment should be fun, right? Not only is it important, but you're getting to meet new people, you're getting to learn new things about individuals, learn different viewpoints, and hopefully people don't see it as a chore. And I think a lot of what you guys shared today will help to overcome that and shift the mindset. So appreciate your time, appreciate your thoughts, your knowledge, unmatched in the fraternity, in my opinion. So if you guys need anything, please reach out to Nick and Zach, but otherwise I'll let you guys go and talk to you again soon. And we want to thank Zach and Nick one more time for their time with us. There's a few other things that I wanted to follow up on, or to tack on to their comments, things that maybe they didn't have a chance to get to. The first of which is read your Teak guide about recruitment, pages 104 to 120. You can see it right there. Zach and Nick essentially rewrote that section this last year for 2020. So your Teak guide might be a little outdated. That's why I've been encouraging you to go to tke.org/guides to find the most recent version, the 2020 version. The 16 pages in there about recruitment are one of the best recruitment resources that we have. So please go check that out. Some of the other things that I want to emphasize: have a goal when it comes to how many new men you want to recruit. What are you working toward if you don't have a goal? Are you happy with 6? Are you happy with 18? If you don't have that goal and you don't communicate that goal, you don't have that sense of purpose, and you don't have that incentive to go out and push as hard as you possibly can in recruitment. Knowing your people, knowing your personnel, that is a huge thing in athletics, as many of us are aware. But for you as a leader in your chapter, whether you're Preakness, recruitment chairman, knowing who's good at what is going to be vital in having a successful recruitment. Nick talked about it a little bit about, you have your introverts, you have your extroverts, you have certain guys you want talking to this group of people, certain guys you want talking to that group of people. But knowing that ahead of time and being able to deploy those individuals accordingly is, again, much better than just grabbing someone on a whim and saying, hey, will you go talk to these 2 guys? They're thinking about joining. So knowing those individuals, having roles assigned, and understanding how different people in your chapter are going to be perceived by potential new members, and how different people in your chapter are going to have conversations with potential new members, that is crucial. And then really practice your people skills. That was probably the biggest takeaway from what Zach said. Recruitment is having a conversation. It's getting to know someone. It's conveying interest in another person, in another person's hobbies or background. But that is a practice skill. That is something that you only get good at by doing it. So before recruitment starts, practice. Have conversations with each other in the chapter. Have conversations with sororities, with your family members. Model the way when it comes to recruitment. What does that conversation look like with a new member? Hey man, tell me a little bit about your classes so far. Hey, you know, what's your major? What are you looking to accomplish during your time in college? What are you looking to get out of the fraternity experience? Having that conversation with a potential new member at times can be intimidating. Having it with a buddy and being able to practice and practice and practice is not as intimidating, and it's only going to make you better. So really honing in on those people skills and figuring out how to get people talking about themselves is a key part of recruitment. People love to talk about themselves. Don't ask yes or no questions. Yes or no questions are going to a lot of times get one-word responses. Ask questions that are open-ended, that allow people to open up and talk about themselves, about their experiences, and they're going to walk away from that interaction feeling pretty fulfilled because they were able to share their thoughts and their feelings for a little while when maybe they haven't had a vessel to do that yet. So again, the people skills are vital when it comes to recruiting new members. Rush events. I want to touch briefly on this because it's not something that we talked about a lot with Nick and Zach. First and most important thing, make sure that your rush events are interactive, that they include everyone. Watching football and eating pizza is a good way to get people in the door. What are you doing with that time then? Are you letting all the new members sit together at one table by themselves and all the active members are grabbing a slice and walking off for the rest of the evening? You're not going to get anyone to join the fraternity because of that. So think about how you can include activities, include situations that are going to allow those potential new members to interact with everyone in the chapter. Maybe it's just as simple as placing guys at different tables throughout the room to make sure that every group of 3 or 4 new members has one active member who they can talk to and interact with. But don't make these passive events where all you're doing is sitting, staring at a screen, playing video games, where you don't have the opportunity to engage those guys who have showed up to your rush event. When you're planning the events, plan them well in advance and communicate that schedule out to everyone and hit people over the head with it. Phone calls, flyers, emails, text messages, Facebook events, Facebook reminders. Do everything you can to get that schedule in front of as many people as humanly possible, and make sure that everyone in the chapter is comfortable with the schedule. Make sure that if Joe Blow member is wearing letters on campus and a potential new member walks up to him and says, "Hey man, what's going on at the house tonight?" or "What's going on for Rush tonight?" that he can at the very least answer that question. You know, hopefully he can engage that person at a higher level, but make sure that everyone is bought in on the plan and has an understanding of what's taking place, so that guys don't get caught with their pants down when they're asked what's going on or how recruitment's going so far. Advertising those events is crucial, obviously. And then the next layer, which I've already talked about a little bit, assign roles, assign staff positions, if you will, to those recruitment events based on the strengths of the people in your chapter. Who's going to be out front greeting people? Who's going to be in charge of the names list? Who's going to be on the grill, right? That can be a very important position. Who's going to be checking in with guys? Hey, can I get you anything to drink? Hey, can I get you anything to eat? Those are roles that don't require a lot of people skills, right? They don't require closing skills, but putting the right guy on the grill can allow someone else to go out and have conversations at a higher level that are going to bring in new members. If your best recruiter is flipping burgers all afternoon because he's the only guy who volunteered to do it, then you've lost out on a huge part of what can make that event successful. So think about how you're assigning roles and how you're staffing those events to make the best use of everyone's skill set. Your brand, which Zach and Nick talked about a lot, is extremely important. That's what's going to get people interested in TKE in the first place. First step there is being honest. Be honest with who you are. There's a lot in the TKE guide about this. Is TKE the top tier fraternity on campus? Are you the group that every single person wants to be a part of? Or are you at the bottom? Does everyone write TKE off and cast them aside for every other fraternity? If that's the case, that's okay. But you have to be able to admit it, and you have to not pretend like you are something that you're clearly not. So be honest with yourself and evaluate what is your current brand and how are you going to capitalize on that, or how are you going to fix it. People on campus figure out very, very quickly who's a part of which fraternity. You don't need to go stand in the middle of the quad and scream, "I'm a TKE," for everyone to know. People figure that out. People figure out which chapters the new members are joining, the freshmen, where are they going? It's common knowledge, right, across campus. So because of that, the old "you're always wearing your letters" adage is extremely true. There's a reason it's so cliche, because it's accurate. Any member can either advance your brand or tear it down. And they need to understand that. And if there are guys who are portraying the Teak brand poorly on campus, you need to have a conversation with them and help them to A, understand why they need to change, or B, that maybe Teak isn't for them and maybe they need to find something else to do. How are your members dressing? How are they acting in class? Are they engaged in class, or do they sit in the back of the room and sleep? What's their activity like in the cafeteria? How are they eating? How are they addressing other members on campus? All of those things go into your brand as a chapter. And again, one guy saying the wrong thing to one person can tear that brand down, and it can push away guys who were already interested in joining Teak and now don't want to. The relationships that your members form on campus are crucial, whether that's with administrators, professors, other fraternities, right? What other people think of you, they're going to share. And they might do that very openly. They might be a little more discreet. But if there are freshmen in a class with a professor who has had a really bad experience with Teak, and it comes up that they're thinking about joining Teak, the professor is surely going to make sure that his or her thoughts are known. So again, just think about how your members are building relationships and how they're carrying those forward. And most importantly, relationships with sororities. The women on your campus have a ton of influence with a lot of those freshmen, a lot of those sophomores who are going to join a fraternity. How are your relationships with the sororities? Are you taking them flowers? Are you taking them recruitment supplies, buttons, pins, flyers that they can hand out? Get the sororities working on your behalf, because the new members are going to be looking at them. They're going to be trying to get in good with the women on campus, right? And if they think highly of Teak, if they're going to steer guys toward Teak, then a lot of your work can be done. It can be taken care of by other people so that you can focus in on closing those deals. And then lastly, the old quality versus quantity. And again, I know Nick and Zach touched on this, but I want to follow up on it. The idea that there are qualified men on your campus who should be Teaks and can be Teaks and want to be Teaks that are not allowed to be Teaks because you already have enough guys is absolutely ludicrous. Think about if your chapter has a quota, if you want to call it that, of 20 people, right? And the 21st guy walks up and says, "Hey, I want to join your fraternity." Has a 3.8 GPA. He's an engineering major. He's a two-sport athlete, and he's in 3 other clubs on campus. But sorry, he was the 21st guy, so he doesn't get in. Think about if you were the 21st guy. What would that mean? How would your life be different if you weren't allowed to be a Teak because the chapter was afraid of getting too big? The chapter was afraid it was going to lose out on Brotherhood if they allowed you to join. It's ridiculous, right? It's insane to think that there are groups out there who don't allow qualified men to join their chapter at the risk of getting too big. Who are you to deny that experience to someone else? The experience that you have capitalized on, that you've taken advantage of. Why should anyone be denied that experience as long as they're qualified and as long as they want to be a part of the fraternity? I think Nick said it best. Having a tight brotherhood, having a good operation, that's a different issue than recruitment. We can solve that. We can build the brotherhood up. We can give you advice on how to do that efficiently outside of recruitment. Recruitment is about getting the most qualified men that you possibly can to be Teaks. Everything else we can take care of on the back end. So again, the ultimate answer to quality versus quantity is both. And there's no reason you can't go after both. There's no reason that you can't have it both ways. And I hope you'll consider that if you are one of those groups who maybe has turned guys away in the past because you didn't want to get too big. Some of our biggest chapters in Teak, Virginia Tech, Iowa State, USC, have some of the tightest brotherhoods and some of the most efficient operations in the country. So hopefully, knowing that and being able to see that encourages you to approach that topic a little differently. So that is my spiel on quality versus quantity. I wanted to make sure that we got it. That is all for this lesson. Obviously covered a lot about recruitment. Hopefully you go back and read chapter 7 and 8. Hopefully you go back and read the recruitment session, take notes, think about takeaways. I'd encourage you to talk to your big brother at this point in the process if you have not already. Reach out to him, see how he's doing, see, if he's running into issues, if he's struggling a little bit. Check in on those people that are important to you, and share with your big brother what your new member process has looked like, and what are your thoughts on what this process has been like, or what your process on campus was like before it got cut short. But if you haven't talked to your big brother, this is a reminder to do so. Check out our YouTube channel. There's a lot of good recruitment content there. We just released this week 5 new recruitment videos with Nick and Zach, where they go into a lot more detail on a lot of the things that we talked about. So look into those. We have a resource guide on recruitment as well at tke.org/guides that covers a lot of ground. And then utilize your resources, your staff members, your volunteers. We talked about your chapter advisors, your GPAs. Utilize those resources as you build a recruitment plan and you look to capitalize on the situation we're in, to start plotting out what recruitment looks like and how you're going to increase the number of guys in your chapter. So please reach out if you have questions to our office, to your volunteers, to other guys who have been successful. We're happy to help in any way we can. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it as always, and I'll talk to you again soon.